Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is Lithic Metals. Welcome to the lab. You might remember this in a portion of a previous video. I believe, I refined a small batch of silver, sterling silver, and there was some gold-plated necklaces or bracelets in there. I don't know what was in there, but we have some shells, as you might see, of some gold-plated material that didn't dissolve in our warm nitric acid. So, but what we did have dissolved is some sort of iron, steel that was left or mixed in with that sterling silver that we had. So this has been sitting on my shelf for a couple weeks, and I thought, well, I think it's time to address it. See if we can get some sort of yield out of here. It isn't going to be much. Profit-wise, it's hardly worth doing. However, I don't know. It could be a whole gram in there. Who knows? I really don't have a clue. So we can figure that out together. But you can see that it's just full of iron, full of this rusty, nasty solution. I had to filter that out to separate it from that silver that we did, just to clean it. You might notice some silver nitrate over here on the left. That has nothing to do with this. It's just here in the way. That's going to be processed next. But what I do have here is some sodium dithionite, sodium dithionite. I don't know if I ever said that out loud. It should be useful in attacking this iron. Normally, before an experiment, what are you going to do? You're going to Google it. You're going to do some research, jump on a forum. You're going to, get some knowledge. And here, I'm just going to go with kind of what I know. And I didn't research it like I normally would. I think it'd be more fun just to kind of see how the experiment goes. I'm going to pour some distilled water in here and heat it up. I'm going to add our sodium dithionite. And I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen. I don't know if this is going to change the iron into little deposits that I'm going to filter out with this, and that's going to get me nowhere, or if it's going to actually put the iron in solution. I've used this before cleaning mineral specimens, and when you do, you let it soak overnight, and works real good, pulls the iron off of like quartz or something like that. And and I can't remember the grit and stuff that would be left in the container. You're gonna have particles falling off anyway, and I don't know if that was like iron that settled out, or if that was just parts of crumbling exterior rock that came off like sand. I don't know. So anyway, I'm gonna get this going. I'm gonna turn some heat on here, and let's get some distilled water in there. Ideally, I'd like to just keep it down here, but it's stained about 600-700 mLs high. Well, 4 or 5. So I'm just gonna take it up to there, and boy, that looks ugly all over again. And I don't know if I should let it warm up first, or just drop it in cool. Yeah. So I'm expecting one of two results. This is either going to turn the rust into little particles that basically precipitates out of solution, or it's going to put the iron completely in solution, and then we can filter it out. That would be ideal. So hopefully that's the way it's going to go. I'm suspecting that I'm going to mix this up now, whether it's cold or hot. I don't know. Normally I'd like to know that. If I have to worry about a pH level, I don't know that either. So I'm just going to kind of go with this and see what it is. It's more for fun than anything else, because like I said, the yield isn't going to be very big. I'm tempted to I think I'm just gonna put some in now. And, see what happens. My prediction would be that it's gonna turn clear. If the iron does completely go into solution, I'm not sure if that would still be a brown color or a golden color or just clear. I guess we'll just figure this out as we go. I hope it at least does something. Otherwise I'm just putting more junk. Look at it bubble on. And it's turning it black. Or dark. Keep going here. Don't want to add too much and get some sort of flare-up reaction. I don't imagine, but there still could be some free nitrates in this. Can't 100% remember what I did, and I didn't even look at my notes. So far, not much is happening here. I mean, there's a reaction, just not what I expected. Half expected it to go clear on me here. Alright, I'm just gonna dump the rest of that in, and if we need more I can try adding more, but I'm gonna wait and see what the result does here. Let this warm up. There's a lot of iron in there, so it could just very well be that I need to dump a ton of that in there. So far it just kind of made it look worse. Don't suspect. I'm actually pretty positive that that's not going to dissolve these filters, but it might clean them out. That one looked pretty clean already. Look at that. I don't know why that would be different. Alright, well let's let that heat up and see if anything changes. If nothing changes, I'm gonna put another dose of our sodium dithionite in there, and we'll see if that does anything. And hopefully I'm not gonna be left with like a big ball of jelly ooze in the end or something. But let's let this heat up. I'll let the camera keep rolling for a few minutes. If I don't notice any real change, I'll shut it off, and when it is up to temperature, we'll click back to it then. Alright, we're about 25 minutes into this experiment now. As you can see, it's, wow, a nice dark black mess. And I really don't know if it just took that iron and created some sort of iron sulfide or something. I have to check. So I don't know if that's tiny little black particles of iron now that are just going to rust again in the water. I really don't know. We're getting up to a decent temperature, and I don't notice any real change at all. I was hoping that the fluid would get clear. Even if we saw these black particles, that maybe I could see better through the fluid, which at least I could see that it's separating, you know. Particles from the solution, that is. think what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to stir it around a little bit more, keep it on the heat for a few more minutes, and then just let it cool down. I'm going to let it sit overnight, and this is probably a game of patience. I'm just going to see if any of this particles settle out. I don't know. But what I do know is I'm going to stir this around. You know, the solution almost does look clear. It's hard to tell. I think some of this stuff might settle out. If that's the case, now it's just going to settle back out to iron. I don't know if I'll be able to take a magnet and suck that out, but even if I do, I'm sure I'd pick out some of these foils. I feel a grittiness at the bottom. I don't believe that that's our sodium dithionite. I believe that's either iron particles dropping out of solution, or there's a lot more gold foils in there than I expected. But, yeah. Why don't we let this sit? I'm going to let it cool down for the next couple hours and work on another project. And if nothing happens, then I'll just tune back in tomorrow and we'll address it then, see if we can filter some of this out. Alright, here we are the next morning, and as you can see, our solution is clear, at least working its way towards it, and it's apparent that our iron did not go into solution. It looks like it formed some sort of sponge and just settled right down onto those filters that are in there. And I think if I poke that with a stirring rod, I just cast it all right back into the solution again. So I think what we're going to do here is I'm going to get a filter ready, and we're just going to filter off this fluid and see what our results are. I'm going to adjust this a little bit here for us. Pop in a filter. Let's just start pouring some of this off and see what we can filter out. It would have been really nice if that iron just went into solution. I'm sure if I would have did a little research, we would have known that ahead of time. But let's just see what happens. Definitely a lot of light particles. I thought to myself, well, if all those particles settled down and gold was mixed in there, well, maybe I could just pan it out like you would use gravity to separate. But that's basically a fantasy. It's carat gold, and it's foils at that, which the tiniest little air bubble can suspend those super thin foils. So wait to see what we have at the end, but I suspect we're gonna have to start all over here. I don't think, looks like our solution's gonna be pretty clear. might have some color to it, but it definitely is not going to be taking out these black particles. And I don't think they're going to be magnetic. You think of like a leaky faucet, the rust stains that coming off. Think of like an exterior wall, say a stucco wall with a leaky hose line. You get those iron stains coming down the side. If you could somehow magically pull those iron stains off, I don't think those little particulates are going to be magnetic. I just don't. Yeah, I'm rambling, but I think we're going to need a vacuum assist here, so I'm going to get that set up real quick. It looks like it's pulling out the finest of these particles, unless I just blew through my filter, which looks like it's very possible. Yeah, that stinks. I didn't regulate my vacuum pressure, and I have a hole right here, so that just added to this experiment's trouble. Alright, so I'm gonna pour this back into here. I'm gonna take that filter out, throw that in there, and I'm gonna get us a fresh filter. Give me a minute. It's not what I wanted to do. Alright, we're back in action. Have a new filter in place. Everything's rinsed out, cleared. Let's try this again. Actually, just gonna let the bulk of that work through real quick here. Get our vacuum going. Alright, we filtered through the first little bit here. Now it's time to dump the rest of this horrible looking stuff in here. It's mostly filters, but it looks pretty crazy with the way that these deposits settled on it. Gosh, I don't know what it's mostly of. I don't know what I'm even gonna do to rinse this. I was thinking about it last night if I want to just go right to a nitric acid, but then there's some issues with that. I'm thinking that we might want to rinse and wash this with hydrochloric acid. If we heat it up, the iron should go into solution. Give it some time. And I guess that would depend too on what that sodium dithionite, man, I gotta practice that word, sodium dithionite, actually does. All this waste, all the waste water, this is all going to be separated from my stock pot until I do a little research on it. That is something I will research before moving forward, because I wouldn't want to mix that with anything and have some sort of problems come up. Oh, I just looked at the camera view. How interesting. I thought you were seeing what I was seeing. Alright. Alright, well, at the beginning of this video, you might recall what the speaker looked like. It was filled with the brown solution of rusty looking iron. And if I would have taken a towel or a rag, if I would have poured that out, taken a towel or a rag to go to clean it, that golden brownish rust would have just stayed right, it would have clung tight to the glass. So our sodium dithionite, yeah, I gotta practice. Our sodium dithionite definitely did react with that material. I mean, we saw it in the change of color. We saw it in how it affected the original iron deposits, how it affected it on the glass. We see that it like turned into a sludgy type of stuff over here. Now I do have all the filters in place. See much, but there is gold foils in here, and that is the ultimate goal here, is to recover those foils. So I'm going to turn the vacuum back on. Let's clean this out, and I think I'm going to rinse it out with some warm water, and I don't know. I think I'm just going to rinse it out real good with just distilled water. And after that, I think I'm going to switch over to hydrochloric acid. The only problem with that now is there is going to be silver in here too. That's why I was going back and forth with the nitric acid. I'd like to do nitric acid, dissolve the silver away. I think that I have to control pH stuff. That's where looking up is important. But now that I mentioned that, you know, I didn't do a pH test or a stannous chloride test. Let's do that now while we're thinking about it. I do not suspect that we would get any signs of gold in our stannous chloride test. And I don't know why a platinum group metal would show up. But let's just see what happens here. Let's get a little sample. It already has a bit of color to it. Get as much of that off as possible. Just see what happens. Anything. No immediate reaction like you would with gold or platinum group metals. Of a reaction at all. Okay, I'm going to dispose of this from the basket. Seal that back up, and we should do a pH test too, just so I can have that for the record here. Just use my fingers. Like it's just wet. That would be something like, let's look here. Between a 6 and a 7. 6, 7. Sorry, it wasn't in view, was it? Here's 6, here's 7. I would say so. Maybe it's starting to get a little darker. Somewhere in between 7 and 8. I'm going to flip this around. I'm going to grab a sample out of this here real quick, just so we can see the difference. So we can see that our litmus paper here is not just wet. Here we can see we're looking more at about between a 3 and a 4. And this is between a 6 and a 7. Alright. Gives it a rough idea. Let's continue with the vacuum. Flush this out and then rinse it once. Alright. Well, as you can see, we have rinsed our solution. I should say filtered it. We are left with this. Not as much fluffy junk as I was thinking. The filters look a little lighter on top, but that's just a matter of, I think, things sank to the bottom filter or inside. It still looks pretty dark within, so I rinsed it off twice with just some warm water. That's what we got. As you can see, our solution of rusty water mixed with sodium hydrosulfite, or sodium hydrosulfite. Yeah. No, oh, sodium dithionite. They're both the same. I think it's the same. They both mean the same thing. I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to pour this solution off. It's going to be separate from my stock pots. I'm going to treat that after I do a little research. But what I do believe I'm going to do now is drop this stuff, all these filters and whatever junk we got in there, into this beaker here. Let's see. Which is just going to create a whole another mess that we just had, basically. Got a lot of that sodium hydrosulfide out of there. Look at this, we got all kinds of stuff in there. Can you see the stones, diamonds, and bit of such and bit of stuff. Probably more likely cubic zirconians. Wherever they are, they survived our initial acid baths. I forgot about all the junk that was in there. Normally I wouldn't just have that like that, but I think I was recording an experiment and just wanted to pull that stuff out, keep it separate, and it was kind of just a mess, and here's what we were left with. I got the heat on here. I'm going to start warming this up. I'm really debating what I want to do next on this. I know we are bound to have some silver in that solution. If I put hydrochloric acid in there, there could be a funky reaction. filter all that out too. Man, that could be a real issue. I'm thinking if I go back to the nitric acid, we're gonna probably get the same results. I should have Googled. I should have. There are certain things we're definitely planning ahead, having a game plan is definitely beneficial to just winging it. Winging it's kind of fun at times. I thought this would be enjoyable, tackling each problem as it comes, but I guess that's just not how I like to do it. We'll still make it fun. This is already starting to get warmed up again, so. Should I just mix up Aqua Regia and pour that in there? So now we basically just have what we just poured off is what I recreated. Minus the sodium hydrosulfite. Or sodium dithionite. It's easier just to say hydrosulfite. All right, let's do a little test, and we'll get a sample and put a little hydrochloric acid in there and see what happens. I'm gonna get this out of the way quick here. I really like how this solution turned out. It's hard to tell at this angle, but it's much darker at the top layer and clearer at the bottom. Take a closer look at it in a bit. But what I want to do is, see, we did a pH test, we did stannous chloride test. I just grabbed a bottle of hydrochloric acid, and I think we should do a little test on this as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to capture a sample of this ugly stuff. You know, it's pretty clear. It just has these particle bits floating in it. Let's see here. I wonder if I could just pour some in here. It's kind of risky without the stopper. No, I'm not going to do that. Let me grab another pipette. Alright, so I got a clean pipette. Grab a little, only need a few drops for this test here. See what happens. Is it going to focus on this? No. Well, I can't say that I saw much of a reaction either way. I don't see any extra precipitating out of solution yet. It can take a second sometimes. I think the floaty bits that I'm seeing were there already. So no real silver chloride, so maybe this was rinsed out last time better than I was thinking. As I somewhat expected immediate silver chlorides to form. I'm not seeing anything. Boy, I'm tempted. Yeah, I'm going to put some hydrochloric acid in here, and we'll warm that up and see if we can get some of that iron to go into solution. Let me dispose of this. Alright, I'm going to get a little hydrochloric acid ready here. I think my game plan at this point is to use the hydrochloric acid here, see what happens. With a bit of luck, it will put our iron into solution. If that indeed goes well, we'll rinse that, separate that off, and what we'll have left is a bunch of pulpy slop with gold foils, carat gold foils. The next step with that, I think we'll just go with Aqua Regia. It's probably not the best direction to go because there's going to be silver mixed in there, and that's going to combine, and we're going to lose a slight bit of value, gold value, getting trapped in the silver chlorides that would form in the Aqua Regia. The best bet would be to try to just probably after this step maybe incinerate it and gather that material, maybe even melt the metal into a button and then quart it with a bit more silver. That's probably the best way to go off the top of my head. However, I want to see some various reactions. So hopefully, I don't really want a reaction right yet, but I'm going to put some of this hydrochloric acid in here. And I don't see an immediate precipitant forming. I'm going to turn the heat on. I'm going to give this a boil. I think this has to get pretty hot. Like, I don't know, 100 degrees Celsius or something for a prolonged period. But I can't remember, so we're just going to kind of see together. I poured in about 80 mLs of hydrochloric acid. I'm going to put the full 100 in there, just wait to see here. Make sure we're not getting any crazy reaction. Alright, let's let that warm up. See what comes of it. And I'm going to have to close this fume hood up real quick because it's going to start to warm up. And I do not want to be breathing that. And there's going to be some hydrogen gas forming, I'd imagine. We don't want that sticking around. So, get our view adjusted. I guess I can keep the camera running for a bit and see if there's any reaction. If there isn't, maybe I'll run a few seconds of it and then just edit it out. But if we do see a change, then hopefully we'll see it here in fast motion. Yeah. Maybe sometimes I think I should script this stuff. But alright, let's just check it out. Well, our solution is definitely hot. At this point, I'm going to check the temperature quick, but either way, I'm going to add more hydrochloric acid. I don't see much change to our solution at all. So I'm going to add a little bit more acid and see if we can get that to come out of solution or go into solution. it's gonna get kind of loud now. So. Alright, well, I've been boiling this solution away for a few hours now, and yeah, I'm not certain that there's any visible change at all, other than the fact that it dissolved all the filters up quite well. There's still some little parts and things floating around, but for the most part, I think it's a very thin pulp. However, it doesn't seem to be making any change to our iron particles here. They are still black as night, and I think if I turn the temperature down, I think that stuff would just kind of settle and fall out, and I could decant it or filter it. But now I got to start with a new series of things, and I'm thinking, well, it's going to make more wastewater. What I'm thinking now, since I have 200 mLs of hydrochloric acid, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few doses of nitric acid and kind of make an aqua regia here and try to dissolve the gold that's in this solution, these foils. Now there's silver in there, copper, a couple other things. It's going to be ugly. You know, there should be some silver chlorides forming. That might trap some of that gold. Yeah, and I'll filter that out, and it'll be processed later. But yeah, I don't know. So, but instead of creating more waste, at this point, I'm just going to add some nitric acid. All right, it's going to get loud again. Another 2.5 ml. So I got 5 milliliters of nitric acid, and I'm just going to let that work and see what it does to those foils. There's not a lot of material, so I don't need to go overboard. I don't know why I moved that. You definitely can see the reaction happening. Our gases are forming, and it is going to go to town on those foils. So I'll let that work for a bit, and then I'll come back with the camera when it needs attention.